I'm John Kaiser in Vancouver at the Metal Investor Forum, September 28th, 2018, talking to Dave Moore, CEO of Serengeti Resources. Dave, welcome to Vancouver.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to update you on Serengeti.
So you've spent the summer doing considerable drilling. I think it was 7,500 meters on the Kwanika project. Results are still pending. A lot of the holes seem to be either metallurgical or geotechnical, but are there any holes that you drilled into Kwanika that probed beyond the known confines of the deposit?
Yeah, well, certainly, yes. Short answer is yes. The drill program, of course, had multiple objectives. As you say, gathering metallurgical samples, doing the geotechnical drilling that's required for mine design, particularly underground mine design, hydrogeology to help with that design. But a number of the holes probe from outside in or inside out, if you will, and testing the limits of the system and testing for ideas that we have developed over the last 2 years since the last drill program in 2016 on high-grade domains, both the potential for high-grade copper domains and potential for higher-grade gold domains. So that's looking inside the deposit, but then of course if we can push the envelope of the deposit out, be it either an open pit or in the underground portion of the deposit, that was very much in our thinking when we designed this drill program. The results will speak for themselves.
Now in 2016, you drilled a hole which went deeper than the prior limit of the known limit of the deposit and ended in pretty good copper-gold mineralization and had to be pulled because of budget constraints at the time.
Yep.
And if the deposit is demonstrated as going even deeper, and we have the famous example of Afton, you know, a mined out open pit, and then somebody goes in there and drills, and raking off to another angle is an even richer dimension to that deposit that was mined out. Now this deposit is only partly open pit with the best underground. Suppose some of this drilling demonstrates that it does extend deeper and has richer grades. Would that put back a development decision after, like, say, mid 2019 when you produce a PFS, which obviously is not going to include any extension? What is the thinking? Just go with what you have, or rethink the whole thing?
Well, we'll see how the results shape up, and I mean, we don't have the results at this point. Otherwise, you know, we'd have put. What we don't want to do is put out bits and pieces of results. We will batch these as they become available. Those results then we will incorporate into a new resource statement, of course, and that new resource will go into a revised mine plan. This project's always been about the interface between the open pittable portion and the underground. So where is the most economic break point there between the pit and underground? That we will be looking at very carefully here in this PFS. And we will be looking at a whole development schedule more carefully too. For instance, delaying the start of underground mine development beyond initial production from a pit would have very significant implications in terms of improving project economics. So all that will be looked at in the pre-feasibility study. I think we will see in the block of rock that we have drilled sufficient tons and grade to advance from pre-feasibility into feasibility study next year. Now that's a pretty forward-looking statement, but we're getting, you know, flashing green lights from all the work that we do, from the drilling to all of the engineering work, the site work and so forth. It's all looking like this really is a potential development project with what we have where it's reasonable expansions. If it continued significantly to depth, you'd be looking at basically the next level down. And these underground block caves, you develop them over 300 to 400 meter vertical range, and that would be a logical vertical height to develop it. If there was a major expansion to depth, that would be for a future expansion, basically.
Now, what about to the north? A year or so ago, you identified an IP chargeability anomaly to the north, which had a size that it could, perhaps rival the size of the main Kwanika deposit. And you drilled some holes into it, and they weren't the results the market wanted. But on the other hand, you felt the holes didn't really explain the IP anomaly. What is the thinking within the group, which is now POSCO and Serengeti, not just
Right.
Dave, the exploration guy? It's
Right.
POSCO, the offtake interested entity, about what to do about this loose end to the north of Kwanika.
Well, it does remain untested. We've firmed up our thinking on that, actually, and we can see there's a really logical place for a hole. But regardless, still a 800 or 1,000 meter hole to potentially drill into a new system. That potential remains. We felt that we would have a better deployment of capital and of our available drilling budget this year by drilling in and around the known deposit, because if we can demonstrate higher grades or an expanded tonnage within the potential current mine plan or notional mine plan that we will make more than notional with the PFS, that's going to have that's going to be much more impactful now, expanding the current resource and enhancing a potential mine development, as opposed to going off and embarking on a new exploration venture, which would be a bunch of holes and expenditure for future benefit, all right, but we felt better off sticking close in and expanding and improving the known item is, I think, the best use of capital and the best way to advance the project to everybody's benefit.
Now, I'm fairly familiar with the ADDI project and the target that you've developed today. But this week you announced the result of revisiting the Croix Bloom target, and your slide showed a sizable IP anomaly, which presumably nobody ever knew anything about, and no holes have been drilled into this anomaly. What do you think is going on there? And you also made a comment that the footprint of this target matches that of Kwanika. What's going on here with Croix Bloom that you've learned this summer?
Yeah, we've had this property since 2004, actually. Not that particular part of the property, but over time we've gradually expanded the land position and did some work. In fact, in 2014, we visited the property, had a look at this old core, because in this new target area there is shallow drilling that encountered some pretty interesting copper gold numbers, actually, in shallow holes that were drilled back between 95 and 97. There's a tremendous geochemistry. There's copper gold geochemistry, intriguing intercepts in this old core. At that time, in 2014, we sampled. We picked out of the core box, actually, previously unsampled core from one of those holes, and we turned up 1% copper and 3 grams gold in core that had not been split. Now, that was not we could see it wasn't a big interval, but it was an indication to us that there was more going on there than the previous operators, more than 20 years ago now, had recognized. We always knew that if we could demonstrate a big sulfide system with the IP, that we could generate a dandy target. And in fact, on our website, I've got a geological model that shows a conceptual target there, and it's this conceptual target has come to reality with this this IP. So we ran a 4.5 kilometer long deep penetrating IP profile, and we've outlined a large plus 500 meter wide strong chargeability, high resistor, which is exactly the sort of thing we're looking for. With copper gold mineralization really on both mountain flanks, it's a classic target.
So next year is going to be an excellent year for Serengeti with 2 high stakes exploration targets being tested. In addition, finding out what your pre-feasibility study has delivered on Kwanika. I've been talking with Dave Moore of Serengeti Resources.